Have you ever worked a job where something just felt off? Not just the usual workplace weirdness, annoying customers, bad management, or soul-crushing hours, but something deeper, like an unspoken presence, something lurking just beneath the surface. You can't explain it, but you feel it. That's how I felt when I started my new job as a night clerk at a 24-hour supermarket. At first, I thought the worst part would be loneliness. The long, empty aisles stretching into silence. Maybe the boredom, the way the hours would crawl by like something trapped, suffocating under fluorescent lights. Or, at worst, dealing with the occasional drunk customer looking for beer past midnight. I was wrong. There were rules. Not regular store policies like stock the shelves or keep the floors clean. These rules were strange, unsettling. They didn't make sense. But one thing was clear. Breaking them was not an option. I got hired faster than I expected. No background check. No real questions. Just a brief meeting with the manager, an old guy named Gary, who looked like he had seen far too many night shifts. He sat behind the counter, his fingers tapping against the cheap laminate surface in a slow, steady rhythm. "The night shift is simple," he said, his voice low and tired. "Not many people come in. You stock the shelves, watch the security monitors. That's it." Seemed easy enough, until he reached under the counter, pulled out a folded piece of paper, and slid it toward me. "Follow these rules," he said, his tone sharper now. "Don't question them. Just do exactly what they say." I picked up the paper, expecting it to be a list of store policies, emergency procedures, closing duties, stuff like that. But as soon as my eyes landed on the first rule, something in my stomach twisted. Rules for the night clerk. If you see a man in a long coat standing in aisle 3, do not approach him. Do not acknowledge him. He will leave at exactly 2:16 a.m. If the phone rings more than once between 1:00 a.m. and 1:15 a.m., do not answer it. Let it ring. If a woman with wet hair enters the store and asks to use the restroom, tell her it is out of order. No matter what she says, do not let her go inside. Check the bread aisle at 3:00 a.m. If a loaf of bread is missing, immediately lock the front doors and hide in the break room until 3:17 a.m. Do not look at the cameras during this time. If you hear the sound of children laughing after 4 a.m., do not leave the register. Do not speak. Do not move until the laughter stops. I let out a short, nervous laugh before I could stop myself. "This a joke?" I asked, glancing up at Gary. He didn't smile. Didn't even blink. His face remained unreadable, his eyes dark and sunken. "Not a joke, kid." His voice was flat. "Just follow the rules, and you'll be fine." And with that, he turned and walked toward the back office, leaving me standing there, keys in hand, paper in my grip, my pulse thrumming like a warning bell. The first hour passed without incident. A couple of late-night customers drifted in, grabbed snacks, paid, and left without much conversation. The store was eerily quiet, the kind of quiet that made you hyper-aware of every flicker of the lights, every distant hum of the refrigerators in the back. I restocked the cereal aisle, wiped down the counters, kept an eye on the security monitors, expecting to feel ridiculous for worrying about a silly list of rules. Then, at exactly 1:07 a.m., the phone rang. A sharp mechanical chime cut through the silence. I froze. The rule flashed in my head. If the phone rings more than once between 1:00 a.m. and 1:15 a.m., do not answer it. Let it ring. But it was just the first ring. Maybe it was nothing. A wrong number. A prank. I reached for the receiver. My fingers brushed against the plastic. The line went dead. The ringing stopped. I exhaled, shaking my head. Maybe this was all just some weird initiation prank for new employees. Maybe Gary got a kick out of freaking people out. Then the phone rang again. 2 rings now. I stared at it. My hand hovered over the receiver. A cold feeling crept down my spine. What's the worst that could happen if I answered? Then, on the security monitor, something shifted. My breath caught in my throat. A man was standing outside the store, just barely out of view of the cameras. He wasn't moving. He wasn't pacing or looking at his phone like a normal person. He was just standing there. The phone rang a 3rd time. I backed away from the counter. My instincts screamed at me not to pick it up. And I didn't. I let it ring, the 4th ring. Then, silence. I exhaled, tension still coiled tight in my chest. Slowly, I turned my eyes back to the monitors. The man outside was gone. For the next hour, nothing happened. The store remained quiet, the aisles undisturbed. The only sounds were the low hum of the refrigerators and the occasional creak of the old ceiling vents. I kept glancing at the phone, half expecting it to ring again, but it didn't. I told myself it was just a coincidence. Some late-night weirdo lurking outside. A misdialed number. Nothing more. But I wasn't in the mood to take chances. The uneasy feeling from earlier refused to fade. Instead, it grew, settling deep in my gut like a warning. I didn't understand what was happening, but one thing was clear now. I had to take the rules seriously. So when the clock hit 2:15 a.m., I turned toward aisle 3. And he was there. A tall man in a long coat, standing perfectly still, facing the shelves. A shiver crawled up my spine. My grip tightened around the edge of the counter. Do not approach him. Do not acknowledge him. He will leave at exactly 2:16 a.m. My gaze darted to the security monitor, 215,034. The numbers glowed ominously, steady and unblinking. I held my breath. Seconds dragged by, each one stretching longer than the last. My heartbeat pounded against my ribs. The man didn't move, didn't shift, didn't even seem to breathe. He stood there, staring at the shelves as if he was waiting for something. Or someone. The lights gave a brief, uneasy flicker, and in that split second, my eyes caught the security monitor, 2:16 a.m. The aisle was empty, just gone. Like he had never been there at all. No footsteps, no flicker of movement. One moment he was there, the next he wasn't. I sucked in a shaky breath, my hands clammy against the counter. Had I imagined it? Was this some elaborate prank? Or had I stepped into something I wasn't meant to see? A chill settled over me, a creeping, suffocating weight in my chest. I felt like I had mistakenly stepped into another world, one where the normal rules of reality didn't apply. I didn't want to check the bread aisle. Every instinct screamed at me to stay put, to pretend none of this was real. But I had already ignored the phone rule, and I wasn't about to make the mistake of doubting another. The rules existed for a reason. Swallowing the lump in my throat, I forced my legs to move. Step by step, I made my way toward the bread aisle, my breath shallow and uneven. Then I noticed one loaf was missing. The air left my lungs. I didn't think. Didn't hesitate. I spun on my heel and ran. My feet barely touched the ground as I sprinted to the front, heart hammering in my ears. I slammed the locks on the front doors, then bolted for the break room. My hands shook as I flicked off the lights and collapsed into the corner, curling into myself. The store was silent. Too silent, the kind of silence that makes your skin prickle. that makes you feel like something is waiting just beyond the edge of your vision. Then, at exactly 3:05 a.m., the security monitor in the break room flickered on. I did not touch it. The screen buzzed with static for a moment, then cleared, showing the bread aisle. Someone was standing there. No, something. It was too tall, its limbs stretched too long, its head tilted at a sickening, unnatural angle. It wasn't moving, but I knew, it was looking at me. Then, slowly it turned toward the camera. My stomach lurched. My fingers dug into my arms. And then, the screen went black. I squeezed my eyes shut, my pulse roaring in my ears. The rules said hide until 3:17 a.m. I counted the seconds, one by one. Don't look, don't move, don't breathe too loud. The air in the room felt thick, pressing against my skin like unseen hands. Every nerve in my body screamed at me to run, but there was nowhere to go. So I waited. And waited, until finally, I opened my eyes. The security monitor was normal again. I hesitated, then forced myself to stand. My legs felt like lead as I made my way back to the front. I unlocked the doors. Then I walked to the bread aisle. The missing loaf of bread was back. I was shaking. Not just the kind of shake you get when you're cold or nervous. This was different. My whole body felt weak, my fingers numb as they clutched the counter. My breaths came in short, uneven gasps. I didn't care about my paycheck anymore. I didn't care about finishing my shift. I just wanted to leave. Then, at exactly 4:02 a.m., I heard it, a sound that made my blood turn to ice. A soft, distant laugh echoed, barely there, yet impossible to ignore. At first I thought I imagined it, the way exhaustion plays tricks on your mind. But then it came again, high-pitched, playful, like children playing hide and seek. It echoed through the aisles, weaving between the shelves, moving closer. My grip on the counter tightened until my knuckles turned white. Do not leave the register. Do not speak. Do not move until the laughter stops. The rule repeated in my head like a desperate prayer. The laughter grew louder. Closer, something flickered in the corner of my vision, a shadow darting between the aisles. Fast, too fast. I sucked in a breath. I did not turn my head. I did not look. I squeezed my eyes shut, forcing myself to stay still. The laughter was right behind me now, soft, almost playful, but dripping with something that didn't belong. Light, airy, wrong. Then, something cold brushed against my neck. A shiver shot down my spine, every nerve in my body screaming. And then, silence. Nothing. No laughter, no movement. Just the low hum of the lights buzzing overhead. Slowly, so slowly, I opened my eyes. The store was empty, like nothing had ever happened, like nothing had been there at all. But I knew better. I felt it. Something had been right behind me. I didn't wait. I grabbed my things with shaking hands, my mind screaming at me to go, go, go. I wasn't finishing my shift. I wasn't clocking out. I was done. I made it to the front door, heart pounding, already reaching for the lock. Then I heard a voice. Low, calm, too calm. You did well, it said. I froze. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. I turned, slowly. Gary stood there, watching me. His face looked the same, but his eyes were darker. Not just tired or sunken, wrong. Something inside them shifted like something else was looking at me from beneath his skin. I took a step back. What the hell is this place? My voice barely came out a whisper. Gary smiled. You followed the rules, he said. That means you can leave. That was all he said. No explanation. No warning. Just those simple, chilling words. I didn't ask questions. I ran. I quit the next day. I didn't go back to pick up my paycheck. I didn't answer when Gary called. I tried to forget, tried to convince myself that maybe, just maybe, it had all been a dream. A trick of my sleep-deprived mind. But late that night, as I lay in bed, my phone rang. Once. Then twice. Then 3 times. I stared at it, my breath caught in my throat, but I never answer. I let it ring,